All right, so we're back. All right, so we have a couple of questions here. We have one asking about how to set up the invoices and the fees. So let's go ahead and address that one first. Okay, so if you want to set up your invoices, all you have to do is come right over here to Setup in that drop-down menu, and we're going to come down here to Billing Setup. Now, this we do have a suggested billing that we automatically load on everybody based on market averages for preparation fees. But if you come over here to Billing Setup, okay, we have our suggested billing, which we add for everybody. But you can also add a new billing scheme. Like, let's say you want to have a billing scheme for the beginning of the season, and then towards the end of the season, maybe you want to bring those fees up a little bit for all the last minute people trying to come in, or you want to bring them down. However you want to do it, you can set up different billing schemes. Right now, we're going to be working off of this suggested billing. So this is just general information, general office information that will show up on each invoice. So if you want to add some messages there, you can. Okay. So we're going to go over to the form billing. All right. Now all this is how much you charge for each form. So we're going to say that the 1040, okay, your base quantity is going to be 1 because you're only going to ever have one 1040 on there. And your base price for a full-blown 1040, if they cannot use the 1040 EZ or the 1040A, we're going to have a base price of $150. Okay? And we don't really have a per item because there's only one 1040 that's going to appear. That's what the base quantity and the base price is. And then we have our 1040A, so let's say our base quantity for that is also 1. And our 1040A, we're going to give it to them for $125 if we don't have to use a full 1040. Then we have our 1040 EZ, okay, which we'll give it to them for $100. Okay, so anytime that these forms appear, you have your base price, which is going to start at 100, 125, or 150, or whatever you want to charge. You can change this one to 200 if you like, change this one to 150, however you want to go ahead and do that. It's going to automatically populate on every single return where these forms appear. Okay, so now let's say you have a W-2. Okay, so our base quantity, okay, is going to be 2. Okay, and we're not going to put a base price. What this means is that for the first 2 W-2s that appear on a tax return, those 2 W-2s will be included in that base price, okay, which we're going to say is 0. So you are not going to charge your clients for the first 2 W-2s that appear on that tax return. However, for each W-2 that they add after those first 2, we're going to charge them $10 for each one of those W-2s. So let's say they have 4 W-2s on a tax return. The first 2 will not be charged. However, the following 2 will be charged at a rate of $10 per item as they appear on the tax return. So if they have a 1040 EZ with 4 W-2s, we have $100 for the 1040 EZ. The first 2 W-2s are included, but the next 2 are $10 each. That tax return is going to cost them $120. And this is how you use that form billing. Okay. Now, let's say we want to charge $150. Let's say $350 for our Schedule Cs, our self-employed individuals. Every single return that you do with a Schedule C, you want with at least $350 charge. So a Schedule C we know can only go on a 1040. So that's going to take care of our base price, which is $200. So now we're going to go ahead and scroll down to our Schedule C, okay, and we're going to say that we don't have a base quantity. We don't want to include any Schedule Cs, okay, all right, and per Schedule C, we're going to charge $150, okay. We don't have a base price and we don't have a base quantity because we don't want to include these. We don't want to include these at all. These will not be inclusive in the price. Each Schedule C is going to cost the customer $150. Now we have our $200 from the 1040 and our $150 per Schedule C. So that comes up to our total of $350. Now, if they have more than one Schedule C, each one of those Schedule Cs is going to cost them an additional $150. So if you have a client that has two Schedule Cs, that right there is your 200 plus 300 because it's 2 times 150. That's a $500 return. Now, again, this is just your suggested billing, which can be altered at the core level here, which will carry forward to every other return, or on a per case basis with those discounts that I showed you over on the invoicing. So this is pretty much true for any other form that you want to go ahead and set up the billing for. So any one of these forms, if you have somebody that has a K1 on their tax return, let's say they have a corporation, all right, you can include one K1, okay, at no cost. But for every additional K1, you want to charge them an additional $20. By the same token, if you have somebody who has gambling winnings, you will allow them one to be included in the base price, okay? And then for every additional item, you want to charge them an additional $5. All right, so this is true for all these forms, okay? Now, let's say you have a 1099, okay? 1099 miscellaneous. Now, you're going to allow up to two 1099s, 1099 miscellaneous at a base price of $25, which means if they have one or two 1099s, it's going to cost them $25 for either one or two 1099s. But for each additional 1099, it's going to cost them $10 each. So you can set this up many different ways. You can either have it where you have a set price for each item that's added onto the return, a base price for the base amount. Let's say the first two 1099s are $25, not each, but in total, and then add per item an additional cost. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing your invoicing. So that's a very good question. You can either give us some kind of sample of how you want to set it up, and we'll set it up for you guys here in tech support, or you can do it yourself through each office that you have the install set up, and that of course will go and be auto-populated on all of the returns that come out of that office for that user ID. So the invoicing system also very flexible and allows you to set your price however you see fit. All right, so that's our invoicing right there. Let's see what other questions we have. All right, we have another question asking if it's possible to save and close once some information is inputted into return, but the return has not been completed. And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. Let's go ahead and add a return. Okay. All right, so I've added a return, and I'm just going to go ahead and put some information in here. All right, and something happens, I have to run out of the office. I'm just going to go ahead and save this return and close it. All right, I have not completed this return, not by a long shot. All right, but I do have the ability to go ahead and save it and close it, and then come back to it whenever I'm ready to continue on with the return. This is the case many times when you have a client that has to get up and go right away. They have something that comes up, some kind of an emergency or some kind of personal issue or family issue that comes up, and they have to leave the office and they'll come back at another time. You can go ahead and save that. And this document here, client had emergency and had to leave. We'll set appointment for next week. All right. And the neat thing about these notes is that as soon as, let's go ahead and save that, as soon as you open the return, the first thing you're going to see pop up are those notes. So as soon as you open that return, I'll show you guys that one more time. As soon as we open the return, those notes come up and you'll see that the client had an emergency and had to leave, and they're going to set an appointment for next week. So you're already up to date as soon as you open that return. If a different preparer opens that return, they can see all these notes, and you can put these notes and tailor them to however you see fit. I always recommend definitely using them for your EIC due diligence, so that as soon as this pops up, in the unfortunate case of maybe having somebody come into your office and audit your EIC files, the first thing they're going to see is those notes come up. And just for your own personal records as well, if you want to relieve some notes on those files, it's definitely possible to do that as well. Another neat feature now that we're on notes is your bookmarks. This is something I didn't go over before, but let's say you have everything done, everything is good to go, and you're missing, let's say, a routing number. This client wants to have this return, this refund direct deposited to them, but you're missing their routing number. So you want to make sure, even though the return appears to be complete to anyone else but yourself, because you know that they're missing their direct deposit information and they want that refund to be direct deposited, you want to make sure that nobody has the ability to send this out. Because if this return gets sent out and it's not direct deposited, that client's going to be upset. So what you can do is set up what we call bookmarks. All right, and you can do that by right-clicking on any field, and we're going to add a bookmark. Okay, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add this to that return that we already completed and was ready to be transmitted, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Where's our return? Here. Of course, the user status code shows me that this is the return that we did that's ready to be transmitted. Okay. Now I think we already queued this one, so I'll show you guys how to take it out of the queue. Just go ahead and hit queue again, and we're going to go ahead and take it out. We're going to unselect it. So it is now out of the queue. See, nothing selected for queue. Do you want to remove the tax return from the queue to be transmitted? I'll go ahead and select yes. Okay. All right. So now this tax return has been locked because it's already been queued up. So we're going to go ahead and unlock this tax return, which can be done by hitting Control-Shift-U or just selecting it here from the menu. So now it is unlocked. So this return, if you guys remember, was fully verified and completely ready to go and get sent out. So if you see here, we go ahead and hit verify. It's going to say return verified successfully. You can go ahead and transmit it or print it. So if I hit Q, it's going to allow me to transmit that return. However, I know that this client wants it to be direct deposited, and we do not have the direct deposit information. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and right click on any field. You can right click anywhere. It can be here, it can be here, it can be anywhere. What I'd like to do is go ahead and put it in the field that pertains to the issue. So I'm going to right click on the bank name. I'm going to add my bookmark. Okay, and now here's going to ask you for a description. Right, so we're going to put here missing bank account info. Now, some of you might be saying, well, why don't you just write a note and just put a note in the file, right, saying need bank account info. Okay, and I'll show you why. Because if I write a note, I can still transmit this return. But by adding that bookmark, okay, you see here now bookmarks appears on the attached forms window. By adding this bookmark here, when I hit verify, it's going to come back as an error, and a fatal error at that. So it will not allow me to transmit this return until this issue has been addressed. So if somebody comes in here and says, well, this return is ready to be transmitted, let's go ahead and send it through, and they go ahead and try and transmit it, it's going to come back with this error. Okay, and then it's going to automatically take them to the field where that bookmark is. At that point, they can go ahead and right click on the field and click on bookmark to see what the issue is, and we'll see here missing bank account information, or simply come over here to the attached forms window, and if they see that there's a bookmark there, you can go ahead and double click that, and they'll see what that bookmark is, and they'll say, oh, okay, well, this one cannot be transmitted yet because we're still missing the bank account information. At that point, you can call the client, text message the client, or refer back to the office manager to see if we have retrieved that information yet, or how you can go about retrieving that information to send out the return. So this is a very, very useful tool. Once the issue has been addressed, you can go ahead and simply delete the bookmark. All right, and now we'll see here that the bookmark has been deleted. And now we're good to go ahead and transmit. Now we can verify and go through. Even though it is in the notes, simply writing a note will not allow you to stop the return from being transmitted. So that's a very useful tool. You set a bookmark, and now we'll try it again. Now you see that that bookmark will not allow us to transmit that return. So it's another nice little tool. Okay, so to answer your question, yes, you can put in information, only partial information, save the return, and then go ahead and close out of it. You do not have to complete the return 100% in order to save it. You can do any kind of input on the information screen or on the return, and then save it halfway through or a quarter of the way through, and then come back to it and finish it up later. We also have a question about the fees to be included. Any questions about fees or anything of that nature, you can go ahead and speak with your account executive, and they'll help you out with that. They'll let you know what fees are associated with the software. Any kind of technical support issues or software issues, training issues, processing, anything like that, I can go ahead and help you guys out with that right now as far as the training is concerned. But any questions about fees or anything like that, you can go ahead and refer over to your account executive. Any other questions right now that you guys may be interested in addressing now in regards to the software? You can go ahead and put it into that question box, and as I go, I'll be checking those and going back and forth with you guys. But very good questions across the board. Right now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is tell you guys a couple of new things that we've added onto the software for 2015. The first ones I'm going to go over are the carry forward from year to year. Carry forward from year to year, we've added donee organizations, which is if you have any kind of charitable contributions and you donate to a specific, let's say a Salvation Army or a Goodwill, you know that if you go ahead, let's go into a return. I think these guys had a Schedule A on there. Well, this is separate. So let's go into the joint return, which is here, joint return. All right, and they have Schedule A on here. So non-cash contributions over $500, you have to use that form 8283. Okay, so let's go ahead and add form 8283, and I'll show you what I mean about donee information. So here's your donee information. If you have a specific donee that you donate a lot of goods to, non-cash contributions, things of that will now carry forward year to year. So you'll be able to see that information there populated automatically. Also, preparer information on the 1040, which you can opt in or opt out of. If it's a single preparer, then that's obviously a good tool to have the preparer information automatically carry forward based on the client year to year. And that can show up right here, the preparer information. Also, prior year balances. This is also a very nice tool which will show up, let's see here, right here under prior year balance. If, let's say you have a client that you do a bank product for, and that bank product does not go through for whatever reason, if there's a balance with the IRS, with child support, student loans, it just gets rejected, the IRS never funds it, anything of that nature, then of course you know that you won't be paid for that bank product. And if that happens, the software will automatically recognize that, and when you carry forward to the following year, it's going to show up right here that bank product was never funded. Now you can also find that over here, as we discussed earlier in the training, in the information and status for the financial product. If you see here that it was never funded, then you know that you're not going to receive that preparation fee. But the software will automatically do that for you here in the invoice showing the prior year balance. So if you have that client in front of you and as you're finishing up the return, you're working on the invoice and you see there a prior year balance, you want to maybe address that with that client right then and there, maybe take an over-the-counter payment up front as opposed to a bank product payment because you're not sure if that's going to happen again. So that's a nice little tool that we've added for 2015. Also, the American Opportunity Credit will carry forward the amount of years. If we go and add Form 8863, which is that American Opportunity Credit, see here the number of years that the client has used the credit. If we put 2, then next year, when we go ahead and do this client's taxes and add that same American Opportunity Credit, it's going to carry forward that amount of years, and the next year it's going to show up with the 3 automatically on there, as well as the name of the educational institution, the address, EIN number, etc., etc. So this is another carry forward that we've added this year, which would bring us to security. Some enhanced security options have been added into the software this year. We have the enhanced encryption password now, to just add another level of security and encryption to the data that you're sending out from your computer to the central site, as well as the program itself. So it's a very, very, very advanced security system that we've added to the software, so you can rest assured that all your information is under lock and key and is protected. Also, we've added the login lockout security measure, where if you put in the wrong username and password more than 5 times, it's going to automatically lock that user. So if somebody tries to go into the system and is trying to guess the password after 5 attempts, the system is automatically going to lock that user ID, at which point you would have to speak to your office manager, administrator, supervisor, or you can give us a call over at tech support and we'll help you unlock that user ID through our end as well. So just make sure and be careful. If you get the wrong password more than 3 or 4 times, you may want to just give us a call before you lock yourself out. Also, training return users. I showed you guys that nice little tool. I'm not going to save that. The nice little tool here in the work in progress summary of the training returns. Now, if you want to have, let's say, a tax theory course, which we also provide for our clients. We do tax theory and tax preparation theory, teaching people how to actually prepare taxes, which we do co-brand if any of you are interested in starting up a tax school maybe in the off season, or maybe just you want to use it for your preparers to help get your preparers ready for tax season, or maybe you have some people that you want to employ or to hire and they're not too well versed in taxes. You can actually set them up as a training user only, so you can give them access to your software without worry of them going in and maybe hitting a button that they're not supposed to be pushing. You can set them up as a training return user only, and the only section that they will have access to is the training return section. They will not be able to see any of your totals at all, how many returns you've done or how many appointments you have or any of these summary totals. This will be completely blank, and the only thing that they will have access to is those training returns. So you can put a computer in front of them going over the course, the tax preparation course, or maybe you have your own training process that you have, and have them go in there without worry of them accessing any kind of information they shouldn't have access to. And you can have them go in here and start training on the software, getting familiar with the software, and only being able to use those training returns. That's another nice little feature that we've added for 2015. Another one that we've added is PTIN masking. Your preparer tax ID number is now going to be hidden on the printed version of the 1040. Now, it will still show your name, your business name, address, and EIN number. However, your PTIN will not show up on a printed 1040. That's simply to make sure and protect your information and your PTIN security on printed returns. Now, usability. We have a couple of different usability functions this year here with the tabs. Before, we had our business returns here on the work in progress screen where you'd actually have to exit a return. You'd have to close out of the return, All right, go back to the work in progress screen and then select your business returns. Go into that, and then you have to get out. You have to exit the return, go back into the work in progress screen, and then go into the 1040 personal returns. Well, this year, what we've done is gone ahead and added a tab functionality. So you can go into a return, let's say a client that has an S corporation, and you're preparing their personal and business taxes at the same time. You can prepare their personal taxes, and then when it comes time to add the K1, come on over here. I haven't added the update yet, as you guys saw on the work in progress, and I haven't run those updates yet. But what you would do is go ahead and just click on business returns. Okay, you see it hasn't been released yet because I haven't added those updates. You can tab back and forth from 1040 to business, and you don't ever have to actually leave the return. So you can be working here on the personal return and then click on your business return tab, start working on your business return. As soon as you have that K1 information, tab back over to the 1040 and finish that up. So you can actually be multitasking while the client is there in front of you doing those business returns. So that is a huge, huge advantage that you will have with TSG over any other software. Is that tab functionality where you can be working on two returns at the same time. Also, we've added our date range search function. If you notice here, I think I mentioned this before, you have your search criteria, which you can search for different returns using all of these different search criteria here. On top of that, you can now go ahead and search for the date that will match the search criteria, range from January 1st to January 31st if you want to see how that first month of tax season went, or of course February, which is usually the busiest month. You can see how many returns you did in February, so on and so forth. So there is a very, very good way to use that new date range filter in many different ways if you just want to get a good idea of where you stand, or searching for different returns in that way. Also, you have your secure email function, which I mentioned earlier. When you're printing your return, you now have the ability to email that signed or unsigned return to your client directly from the software. 9 times out of 10, when you print out a return for a client, they're going to fold it up, put it in their back pocket, and never see it again. And then a year from then, they're going to call you asking you for a copy of their tax return. Well, you can save yourself some time and money with office supplies and overhead and paper by just emailing it to them. And then you will be able to see in your client log, in your data log, when it is that you actually emailed it to them, so that if they ever call you asking you for that return, all you would have to do is either email it to them again, right from the software, or just advise them to check in their inbox or in their email for the date that you sent it to them, and they'll be able to pull it right out of their email. So that's a really, really great function that we have there as well. Nice little feature. Let's see what else. We also have the user status, which I mentioned is now right on the client data page. So that's very useful. We have our taxpayer male or female box, which we've added this year. We've also added the shortcut to unlock the return, which is Control-Shift-U. So any of you guys who are techie, you can go ahead and use that keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-U, to lock or unlock the return. We've also made depreciation much easier by adding it over here onto the attached form screen. PDF documents that you attach to different forms will also be showing up here on the forms tree as well. So let's say, for example, you have a client that has dependent care, okay, and you want to go ahead and upload that document, okay. So see here, you have some attachments that you can add here, right? You can add the birth certificate, okay. You can add medical records just to show that you qualify to claim that dependent and to claim this this adjustment or this credit here. All right, so all these forms can be attached right on. All these PDFs can be attached right on this form itself, and then they will show up here under forms, additional documentation. All right, and that will show all of those different forms right on the actual forms tree. So that's a nice little feature there as well. As I mentioned before, we can email the copies. We've gone over that as well. And we can now select the amount of copies to print from the print window. So you can now select if you want to print 1 or 2 or 3 different copies of tax return. You can also do that right from the print window, which we've also gone ahead and added to the software for 2015. A couple of new forms that we need to talk about. It's going to be impacting a lot of people this year. Is for the Affordable Care Act, we've added Form 8962, okay, which is for the premium tax credit. All right, so this form is now readily available for use. In preparation, we also added the 8965, which is for the exemption from the healthcare marketplace. Okay, we've also added Form 1099Q, so you can now input Form 1099Q, and it will automatically add the additional forms needed for the 1099Q. So that's a new form that we've added this year. That's for prepaid college or Coverdell programs. We've also added Form 3115, which changes the accounting method for any entity that's used mostly for the business taxes. You can go ahead and add that and e-file that now to change the accounting method right from the software. So a lot of new forms, a lot of new updates to make our software better and better every year, and we're going to continue to do that. Any suggestions or anything like that, just go ahead and give me a call or shoot us an email. And we like working with our clients to try and make this make our software as user friendly as possible. And every year we're going to be adding updates to make the process much smoother and much easier. So if you think it's easy to use now, just wait until the next couple of years when we start adding even more stuff. So definitely, like I said, we try and treat you like the tax professionals that we know that you are, and try and make this software as great of an experience as possible. And if you ever have any suggestions or questions or anything like that, feel free to let us know and give us a call. So this is going to bring us to the portion of the demonstration where I'm going to start going into the management dashboard. If you do have more than one office, I definitely recommend that you stay for the rest of this presentation, because this is going to show you how to run every single office from your desk, which is fantastic. And you can see an overview of all the different offices, and show you how to make sure that every office is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and you can address any issues on a multi-office level right from your own office, which is great. And if you don't have a multiple office operation, I definitely suggest that you also stick around and take a look at that management dashboard, because it does have a lot of useful tools, even if you just want to check by preparer or by office, as I mentioned before. So a lot of different features you can use with the management dashboard, which I'll go ahead and go into right now. So let's go back into the work in progress screen, and we're going to access our management dashboard. Okay, now we have a couple of different tools here. All right, you have user summary, okay, which is going to go in and check by each user ID. So the user summary is going to check by each user ID, which is going to show you here your preparers, which is your demo. That's the only preparer loaded up on here. But if you have multiple preparers, it will pull up the performance and the summary of each individual preparer in every single office. If you only have one office, well, it's going to show you how each preparer, every single preparer in that office is performing. If you have different offices, each office will be issued their own user ID, and then it will break it down by user ID. So you can go ahead and click on your first office, and you'll see all the preparers in that one office. You can go ahead and click on your next office, and it'll show you all the preparers in that office as well. So this is basically your user summary, okay, showing for all groups. And you can also filter it by date. So this is an incredibly useful tool that you can use on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week, or just to check at the end of the season which offices performed better than other offices, which preparers performed better than other preparers. If you have a preparer that's lackluster, you can maybe address that preparer, see if they need any help, and assist them in trying to get a few more clients in the door, a few more returns done for that next year. So very useful tool. This is what's known as the user summary. And if you go into this first office, we're going to see that first preparer. All right, and we're going to see how many returns that preparer has actually done. So that, excuse me, demo has prepared 6 returns. and show you how many returns are paper returns, how many of them are e-file returns. It'll show you how many of those returns are acknowledged. And it's going to also give you a percentage. Okay, it's going to give you a percentage of all these returns. So if you see that this preparer is preparing an awful lot of paper returns, you may want to address that with them and ask them why they're not just e-filing those returns, maybe to offer some more bank products and just save on the paper consumption to e-file those returns rather than send them out as paper returns. And if they haven't had any acknowledged, or you can see that out of the, let's say, 200 returns that they've prepared, only 50 of them have been acknowledged, you're definitely going to want to address that. So this is going to give you an overall summary of your entire business, your entire operation, all of your preparers. Okay. You also have your daily activities. Your daily activity is going to show you, based on each office, how many returns they've prepared on that day. Okay. And from here, it's pretty much all the same because all of this I've done today. But it's going to show you your daily activities, which again you can filter from start to end date. We'll pop up with a little calendar here, and you can select that. All right, so if we go ahead and hit go, then we're going to see here today's date. All right, we've done 5 returns in total, 2 of which are paper returns, 3 of which are e-file returns. So we have 40% paper returns, 60% e-file returns. All right, and now it'll even go into more detail, okay, by choosing the user ID, okay, and then even more detail by when selecting that user ID, seeing how many preparers, all the details in the preparers. And this is on a day-to-day basis. This is a daily activity of each office and each preparer in that office. Okay, so this is reporting on a very granular level. I mean, you can go very in-depth with this reporting with the management dashboard. It's going to show you, like I said, your overall operation, where you stand on a day-to-day basis, week to week, month to month, or season to season. You also have your financial totals. How much did you make that day? It's going to show you on the 7th, we collected $185. All right. How many paper files you have, how many paper checks. We paid with a check with one of those invoices, if you guys remember. It's going to show you your percentages and your totals. It's going to show you, based on, if you have 3 different offices, you'll show your 3 different user IDs. And then it's going to show you how each one of those offices performed. And if you want to go even more in depth, you can click on a specific office, and it's going to show you how each of the preparers in each of those offices performed as well. And this is on a day-to-day basis, so you can go ahead and start on this date or start on that date, check on a specific date range as well. So this is very useful. You also have your group summary, which we've gone through. We've already checked that. That's a group summary to see how, as a total, all of your offices are performing. Okay. And you can narrow that down as well. Then we have your user status codes. Now, user status codes, if you guys remember, is what we use to input either if it's ready or missing a W-2 or maybe missing that 1095A or 1095B. And you'll see here under your user status codes how many of them are ready or good to go, missing some kind of documentation. All right, so you see here ready, you've only got 1 that's ready, which I labeled on that user status code. All right, and none means that there is no user status code. Now this year we can actually make the user status codes mandatory. So it will show up as a fatal error and will not allow you to transmit without adding that user status code. Just to kind of show you guys how that works, let's go ahead and select a return. If you notice, we only have that 1 that's ready. So let's go ahead and add some user status codes to these guys. All right, we'll go ahead and pull them up from our database here. Well, that's for referrals. Let's go ahead and come up here to user status. We'll add a 1095 to this one. Save it. Close that. We'll come right over here. We'll add another ready to this one. Close that. All right, and we're just going to do this for a couple of these returns just to show you guys how that works. And if you do want to make it mandatory, you can come over here to setup. Okay, office setup. All right, and I believe it is in defaults, and we can require a user status. So we can make that mandatory. Okay. So when we go into the return, and if we verify, you're going to see here that we need to add our user status. That's the very first thing that it asks us for. All right. So let's go ahead and go back into that management dashboard. I'll show you guys how this works. Come right back over here to our management dashboard. And now we go to user status codes. We hit go. Now we're going to see there's a lot more information. We're going to see here that on our totals of 1095s that we need, we have one, which is 16% of our total client base, 3 of them that are ready, which is half of our total client base, and it's going to show you each user ID, where those statuses are, and of course each preparer and what their statuses look like. And we know we need one more person that needs a W-2. Okay, so again, very, very granular, very useful, very detailed. And then of course you have your acknowledgments. And it's going to show you how many acknowledgments you have. Right now, of course, we have none because the IRS has not opened yet. Supposedly they're going to be opening on January 20th. So hopefully, knock on wood, they will actually open on the 20th. And then we'll start seeing some acknowledgments come by. And again, breaks it down by office. And in each office, it breaks it down by preparer. All right. So even if you don't have multiple offices, it's always good to know where you stand in your own office, in your own business. If you have more than one preparer, this is a fantastic tool to use on a day-to-day basis to reconcile your invoices, the amounts that have been paid over the counter. You'll see here your financial tools, how much you collected on that day per preparer, which is great, and how many you have acknowledged that day, how many returns have been acknowledged by the IRS. So this is a fantastic tool, whether you have multiple offices or multiple preparers. Very great tool. Okay. And then of course you have your bank information here, another great tool. So that's your management dashboard, and for the most part, that's pretty much it. That's really everything that you need to know with the software to either start preparing returns yourself or maybe train one of your preparers. Like I mentioned, I have been recording this training session, and I'm going to make it available to everyone. If you guys want to have maybe a preparer sit in on it, or maybe you want to review it yourself. I was recording the webinar so you can refer back to it, or maybe have somebody sit down and take a look at it so that they can be trained on the software as well. We went over a lot of different things. Main thing that I want you guys to take away from this is the forms-based software and how it works, that active window on the bottom, which I like to call the cheat sheet, and of course how to do depreciation and use the management dashboard. Management dashboard is more for you guys as administrators and as owners or managers, but for regular preparer that's going to be doing preparing taxes day to day, definitely need to know about that forms-based software and how to use the forms, the active window on the bottom, and how to do depreciation. So now I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions that anybody may have. Let's see here. I'm going to start unmuting some people, see if anybody's got any questions. Anybody have any questions or anything that they may want to want me to review again? Go ahead and add your questions there on the questions tab. You can also feel free to give me a call at 1-844-TSG-PROS, extension 102. That's our tech support line if you guys have any questions. Or you can feel free to email me at Kevin, that's Kevin, at tsgtaxsolutions.com. And I'll be more than happy to address any questions that you guys may have, or you can also contact your account executives. And that's going to conclude our training for the day. We knocked it out in about less than 3 hours, which is great. Just wait on the line here for about another 2 minutes if you guys have any questions. But we're all done. thank you guys very much for attending. Thank you very much for coming in and joining TSG, being a part of TSG. And anything else that you guys may have any questions about, feel free to give us a call. Thank you very much for coming in. That's going to conclude our presentation. I'll hang out, like I said, for about another 2 minutes. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. All right. Thank you very much.